This past weekend, I participated in the Alpha Win 70.3 distance triathlon event held in the beautiful Hudson Valley in Kingston, New York, about 40 minutes north of where I live. And let me tell you, this was one of the most physically and mentally demanding races and events of my entire life. There was a lot of unknowns, there was a lot of variables, things that came up throughout the race, both physically and mentally, that truly made this a very, very challenging event. And in today's episode, I wanted to do a little bit of a post-race report. Talk about the race, my preparation leading up to it, the physical challenges I encountered, the mental challenges I encountered, and the tactics that I used to overcome all of those things and finish the day with a time that I can definitely say I am proud of, and also being able to come in second place in my age group, in my division, and getting to walk home with a medal. It was a long fought and long deserved finish, and I can easily say I left everything out there on the table on race day. I really fought to the end, through every leg, through that swim, through the bike, and through the run. And for those of you that aren't familiar, the 70.3 distance, that is the total mileage between all three disciplines of a triathlon. So we start in the water with a swim, we go on and transition into our bike, and then we come from the bike and transition into the run. So for a 70.3 distance, that swim is going to be 1.2 miles. And then going into the bike is 56 miles, and then finishing with a half marathon, 13.1 miles. A tall feat, to say the least. And in this event, there was multiple distances going on. So the longest distance was that 73 distance. That was the long course for this event. There was about 50 men and I think around 40 to 50 women overall in doing that long distance, and then there was hundreds of others doing the sprint, the Olympics, so different distances throughout the day. And the long course, the one that I was a part of, we were the first ones to go. So the cool thing about that was there was a group from my running community called Beacon Endurance. It's a group of people who do biking and running and swimming and triathlons and races. And I train with them, and they hold events. So they had a tent up. I got to meet with them beforehand. And also another friend of mine was doing a different distance. So she came out early. We met up before the swim started, got to hang out a little bit, and got to have someone there at the start line as I started. Now this is my main tune-up race before Chattanooga, Tennessee in September. So I started training right around March. This is just about the midway, a little bit more than the midway point. And this is the longest distance race I have done. Last year was my first triathlon. I did the Atlantic City Ironman 70.3. So the exact distance that I did this past weekend, this is the longest that I've ever done. And this was the distance that I did last year. So all of the training up until this point has really been geared towards this race. And now beyond this race is going to be geared towards doing the full Ironman. So all the distances I just gave you, I'm going to be doing double that. But I'll be getting into that a little bit later in the podcast of what that means and how I've just entered this area of no man's land, this kind of exciting and scary area of a place I've never been, where I'm redefining what is possible. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. So again, our race started at 7 a.m. and definitely feeling good and feeling confident going into it. I feel that I've learned a lot since last year at the Ironman in Atlantic City. I've learned more about nutrition. I've been really putting the time into my training. I got a new bike. So there was a lot of variables working in my favor, and I really was feeling a really strong day. Only thing I was a little iffy about was my swimming, but it ended up going well, and the day started with that. It was a really, really warm weather at least for the swim. The water was 82 degrees, so wet suits weren't even allowed. Sometimes, depending on the water temperature, you can wear wetsuits. It'll be optional, or if it's over a certain temperature, you're not allowed to wear wetsuits, which was the case that day. So it was warm water, and it was a floating start. So basically, we all started out in the water, just treading water. They counted down, and then we all took off, and we did 2 laps around buoys. They have big buoys set up, really large, can't miss them, and you do that 1.2 miles around. So it was about a half a mile roughly, swimming that twice around the lake. The lake was pretty nice. There was a little bit of seaweedy stuff, and the walk-in was mucky and a little gross, so had to get through that a little bit. But I definitely had some mental challenges in the beginning. Like I said, there wasn't too many men, so all the men started together. There was about 40 to 50 of us. Now, my only other experience of racing in the water and having a swim start was in the Ironman, and I was lined up with thousands, literally thousands and thousands of people in the corral going every 5 seconds. So in that race, there was a lot more people, there was a lot more action, there was a lot more getting kicked in the face, but that's what I was used to. And in this race, in the beginning, the first 5 to 10 minutes, there was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of, rubbing up against other people, touching feet, getting kicked a little bit. But then after about 5 to 10 minutes, it got real quiet. I felt like there was this big bubble around me, and I really wasn't seeing or interacting with any other people. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, everyone's past me. I am the slowest one out here. My pace is horrible, and everyone has passed me. And, as these thoughts were coming in, I just would come back and I'm like, no, just keep your pace. As long as you can keep this pace right now, and you don't have to go faster, but don't go slower. Just keep your rhythm, keep your breathing, and keep moving forward. And that's what I did. Instead of focusing on that feeling of like, hey, I'm doing horrible and I think everyone's past me and I know there's a bunch of people up ahead, I just said, race your race. Just keep showing up, keep your breathing consistent, and if you could hold this pace through to the end and not have to stop and not get gassed and out of breath, you're going to be perfect. And I went through this, and it's funny because the swim is the shortest portion, right? It's 1.2 miles compared to 56 and 13. And I finished in 40 minutes. So for between 30 minutes and an hour is the typical swim. So in comparison to the other disciplines, it is much shorter. But let me tell you, that swim, sometimes you feel like you're in there for 7 hours, 8 hours. I was in that water, and I have my watch, but I never wanted to stop and look, and then, you lose your momentum. You don't want to go down that route. And they do make goggles where you can see pace, but I'm not going into those yet. So I have no idea really, aside from the training and having an understanding, I knew I was at a decent pace, but those thoughts can creep in quickly. And I remember saying to myself, no matter what the swim is, it doesn't matter. You get out there and give it your all in the next 2 legs. So I kept going. I felt good though. I do remember wanting to burp up my coffee. In the morning I had my coffee as normal, and usually I have it before my training. I had my oatmeal, eggs. Most of my loading up of carbohydrates and fuel are done in the days prior, so I'm not like loading a bunch of fuel in the morning, because then that leads to GI issues and being over full, and then like really wanting to vomit or other issues that you just don't want to have on race day. So I've learned to really, that whole week leading up is when I really learned how to top my body stores off and get ready for these long duration races. But I remember some burps coming up and it tasting like coffee, and I did enjoy that. So I think for next time, maybe not doing the coffee might be the move. Again, I do believe that caffeine can be a benefit, can be a good supplement to utilize, but it definitely had like a minor drawback that I might think about moving forward into the future. So that being said, I did my laps, I got around the lake, I'm on my last lap, I'm coming in, I get out of the water, I look down. Now I'm tracking on my watch the triathlon, so I look down and I hit the button to go into transition, and I'm at 40 minutes. And last year's Ironman, I did it in 50 minutes. So 10 minutes does not sound like a lot, but 10 minutes in that span is a ton less. That's a really great time. The top people, the people at the top of the class are doing about 30 to 32 minutes. And then towards the back end, what I did last year, 50 minutes to an hour. And then I think the cutoff is like an hour 10. So nailed the swim. The swim went great. Everything that was going on in my mind was false and wasn't true. So we come out, and there's a little bit of a jog going from, we were in a pond, and then we go over to the transition area. And the transition area is where all the bikes are. So they have these bike racks set up, and in your area, you have your bike set up. You're gonna have your biking shoes. Most people have clip-ins, so the shoes actually clip into the bike. So you go to that transition area, and people will be fueling up, maybe drinking some water, getting their shoes on, and this is where you get ready for that next leg, that next portion. So out of the water, run over the transition. I have my towel set up. I dry off a little bit. I grab my Camelback. My Camelback's all set up. I like to have all my water, hydration, nutrition with me. That's pre-planned out, and I have a very specific hydration and nutrition plan that involves not only water, but electrolytes and calories and carbohydrates that I essentially map out, and through training and through research and understanding myself, my body, and my needs, I'm able to essentially map out what I need to take in each 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And there's equations that kind of help with this, but really this is unique to each person. It's learning about minimum effective dose, right? We want to be fueling the body, but we don't want to be over fueling the body, because then if you have to go to the bathroom a lot, or if you're eating too much and you're causing digestive issues, it's about learning how your body responds, because 6 hours of putting out and then also putting things in, if not done properly, I've experienced, bad stomach cramps and pains, and really learned what products to work with, what feels good for me. So I've really spent a lot of time understanding and developing a nutrition plan that really works for me. So with that plan, especially at the 73 distance, all the water I need is in the Camelback. I have water bottles. So in the water bottles, I have water and I have electrolytes. So all the electrolytes that I need in that 3 to 4 hour ride are in the water bottles. All the regular water I need is in the Camelback. My job is to finish those before the bike portion's done. And I know I've taken in everything I need to take in. And then when it comes to nutrition, I have my nutrition in the bike. On the bike, there's a little bag right in front in between the handlebars, and that is where all of my nutrition is held. And this year, recently, I've moved over from the gel packs. And gel packs are they're a liquid pack, and essentially it is simple carbohydrates. They use a mixture of glucose and fructose to help top off the body's glucose and glycogen or carbohydrate stores, so that you can readily use it. Because as we continue to do our workouts and the length gets longer and the intensity increases and the body's calling more upon the stores, we begin to deplete. The body holds roughly 2,000 to 3,000 calories of carbohydrates at any time. We have carbohydrates in our working muscles. We have it in the blood as blood glucose, and we have it in the liver as glycogen. So liver glycogen, muscle glycogen, and then glucose in the bloodstream. But if you run out, that's when you see people bonk. You see people getting to mile 25 and then they can't go anymore. If there's no more fuel to be utilized, then we bonk, or we have severe pains, or the body starts reacting in really negative ways to tell you, hey, we've got a problem here. And we are utilizing other stores. We do utilize fat throughout these, a little bit of protein, but that's really not a preferred fuel source. But the point being is that carbohydrates are really the star of the show, and we want to continually be topping that off throughout these races to help optimize performance and be able to perform at a high level over an extended period of time. So that being said, I've moved away from the gel packs and I moved into using Lara bars. Lara bars are they're 4 ingredients. Most of them are made from dates. And they react really well with me. Honestly, I shifted over because the gel packs can be, $2 to $3 each, and I get Lara bars for under $1 each from BJ's. And again, there's only 4 ingredients, and I find that they work really well for me, and they've been going really well. So in training, when I'm out on a 3, 4, 5 hour ride and I have to eat 5 or 6 of them, that cost can add up. So I was looking for different options that work for me. I do know people that make their own gel packs. Again, you're just looking for simple carbohydrates. So we want to get those carbohydrates that the body can use readily in. So there's different recipes and ways to go about that. I mentioned before that many of these gel packs will have a specific combination of glucose and fructose. It's because our cells have two entryways, and there's an entryway for glucose and an entryway for fructose. So having both of those inside of a formula, if our glucose is topped off, there's actually another entryway where fructose can get into the cell, and we can saturate with both of them, essentially creating a space for more fuel within the body. So there's two different pathways for both the glucose and the fructose. And long story short, that is why you will see formulations that utilize both of them. So a little tangent on fueling and hydration. That being said, I dry off, I get my shoes on, I get my hydration pack on, and I hit the road. I grab my bike, and it's a little bit of a run to get to the road. The bike doesn't start until you hit the pavement. So there was about maybe a quarter-mile run. You kind of like run with your bike up to the road. I actually had some friends cheering on the side from that Beacon Endurance. So I'm soaking it all in, smiling, waving, running with the bike, and we get on the course. And the first 10 minutes of the course, there was some steep uphills. I remember thinking in my head, like, damn, I didn't know courses had such intense elevation. Now, mind you, my first race last year in Atlantic City for a bike, super flat. We were on a highway. I mean, it was a flat and fast course. I was averaging miles per hour that I wasn't touching in training. So to give you an idea, I was averaging about 20 miles an hour during that event, during the Atlantic City Marathon last year. Super flat course, a little bit, like the on ramps, off ramps, there was like a little bit that you had to go up some elevation, but it was quick and easy, and I was able to burst up it. This one, it felt like it was uphill both ways. There was some challenging hills. So the first 40 minutes, I knew I was in the front of the pack. I was keeping up with some bikers that were, putting up some good speeds, and there was, clearly the ones that started to pace out and they made their distance. But there were some fast riders that I was in pack with. So I was like riding that momentum. I was riding that wave. I was feeling good, coming off a good swim, and I was putting out. I was feeling it. My legs were burning within the first 40, and my fueling plan was every 40 minutes, I was going to have my nutrition, 25 grams of carbs, and then I was going to have some electrolytes, some water, and then I had everything set for that. 40 minutes in, I'm gassed, I'm coming up to the top of the hill, and I'm like, all right, time for the first nutrition. I open my bag up, and all of my nutrition is gone. Come to find out later, when I was at transition and I was running with the bike, I went over some rumble strips that were actually for, you go over them so that they can tell your time, because we wear these trackers. So you go over these strips and it helps track your time. Well, when I bounced over that, all of my nutrition came out. So now I'm like, damn, I just swam for 40 minutes. I'm gassed on the bike, and my nutrition plan completely went to hell. Now, immediately, my brain started to want to go to freak out mode, because they do have aid stations on the way, but they're every like 15 miles on the bike, and 15 miles at the pace I was doing, that's about an hour. So I'm like, holy crap. Now I got no nutrition. I do have my hydration, and I have a decent understanding of the science behind it. So in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, my body's running out of glycogen. I'm gonna bonk. I'm not gonna be able to keep up this performance. And I let the thoughts kind of come through. I took a deep breath in. I gulped some water, and I was like, we're good. We're going to keep pushing, maybe dial it back and keep, conserve a little bit, really tune into the body, but we're going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And I ended up making it to that next station. But it was a mental challenge. Like I said, in the swim, I had some mental challenge come up, some doubts come up, was able to navigate, move through them. But the bike was just another one. I was not hitting the times near that I was anticipating for the day. And, I would have these long sprints and, feel good and feel like I got through some of the hills. And all of a sudden I come up and just this huge steep incline. I'm like, damn, I'm not ready for this. And, and I'm going uphill, and people are passing going uphill. And I'm like, shit. is this my nutrition? No, you're fine. Why can't I keep up? There was just so much going through my head, you know. But I mean, at one time, like, you know what, screw it. Like, I'm not even gonna do the run. I'm done after the bike. And, you know, that thought came out, and I'm like, and then, you know, it came into moments where it really was a beautiful course, you know. So being able to see nature and, you know, get out of my head, because there's no music. There's no headphones. You're not allowed to wear headphones, and you really wouldn't want to, because the roads weren't blocked off. There was cops, and like I said, the aid stations at certain turnarounds, but 56 miles, there's only so much they can do, and the roads are enclosed. So you're just, you know, it was a much different atmosphere than Ironman, where you had tens of thousands of people, and you had roads blocked, and you had bands and people playing music and people with signs all over. There was a couple of them, but this really felt like I was doing this on my own. I was out with a couple buddies, you biking 56 miles is really what it felt like. So that was another layer of challenge, because a big thing about these marathons and these events, especially when you don't have headphones in, is you draw upon the motivation of other people. You draw upon the energy of your surroundings and everything that's going on. And I didn't have that. I had a nutrition plan that went to shit. I had legs that were burning up. I had hills that were killing me that I wasn't anticipating. And I had a mind that was wanting to run away on me. And, you know, the thought kept coming to me is, this is what we do this for. This is why we do this. The mind is going to try to run away with this, but this is how we callous the mind. This is the things that we do. This is why we do the things that we do. And, you know, that thought and those moments were the moments that reminded me of all of it. And it allowed me to come back and to regain control of the chaos that was going on inside my mind. So with that being said, you know, I reached that aid station. When I finally reached the aid station, you're like, what do you need? Water, Gatorade? I was like, whatever nutrition you got, please, can I have some extra? And they ended up giving me like 4 gel packs. And each gel pack is 100 calories and 25 grams of carbs. And I was, you know, it's usually my goal to have 25 to 40 grams of carbs an hour. So I essentially took 2 immediately. I didn't want to take all 4 and then have some stomach issues and get nauseous and sick. So I ended up opening up 2. I had 2 of them, and immediately I allowed myself to feel it. You know, I was like talking to my body, like, all right, we're good, right? You feel that? Let's go. And then 10 minutes later, I had a 3rd one. And, you know, my mind, my body, I just felt a lot more at ease after that. But there was a lot of discussion and talk with my body throughout this race. Again, I said that there was a lot of these hills, and I do train in hills. Part of my training is doing hill training. I go to spin class, which is, it sounds funny, but in spin class, they have you do, you know, very high resistance, very low resistance. It's good to really practice those different areas and those different resistances in training. So that's why I get such a benefit and why I go to the spin classes. But, you know, my legs were burning up particularly bad that day. And, you know, there would be points where, I'm sitting down, I'm pushing, and be like, all right, let's give those muscles a rest. Time to work the slow twitch fibers, right? Because in these races, we're working fast twitch, we're working slow twitch, we're working different muscle groups depending on if I'm sitting on the bike, if I'm standing, what angle I'm at. So when I got to these points where I felt, you know, there's always discomfort in these races, and there's fatigue, and there's burning sensations. But when I felt that there was time to kind of shift and give a little bit of space to maybe my quad muscles, I would stand up and put a different resistance on and be like, all right, let's give those muscles a rest. So I didn't only do the things to give the body the rest, I actually verbally gave the commands. And these races that I do, the training that I do, especially when I'm doing it without headphones, it is a continual and constant conversation with myself. I am continually speaking to my body. I'm continually speaking to my mind and my parts, and the parts of me that are giving me signals and the parts of my body that are giving me signals. There's never a quiet moment. And it doesn't mean that I don't enjoy it. And there are moments of peace within the storm, right? It really is like a calm within the storm sometimes, that you feel almost this zoning out where the body is in motion and it's doing its thing, and you're kind of tuned out to the fatigue, and you're really just, for me, I'm connected to my breath and just going in this really blissful, blissful may be a stretch to say, but in this just really tuned in space where everything else kind of fades away. But that comes and goes. And again, the pain comes in, it's up and down, it ebbs and flows. All of a sudden, massive fatigue in the legs, all of a sudden, massive pain or fatigue in the shoulder. And it's about, how are you going to react to that? And it's what I love about this so much. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? 6 hours of this, but I don't know any other place where I can work that muscle of my mind so intensely and so deeply, because this doesn't just live on the track. This doesn't just live in my physical disciplines. That same voice is the voice that wants to keep me in bed in the morning. That same voice is the voice that maybe wants to eat a little too much or snack on that thing that ain't the best for me or ain't aligned with my goals. Isn't aligned with my goals. So this goes way beyond just this event. This is an opportunity to continue to prove to myself and to the various parts of me that I'm in control, that I can overpower these, I don't want to even use the word overpower. I think override these signals, because that is what we're learning to do. And it's important, and it's an interesting balance, because on one hand, it is so important for me to be in tune with my body, to listen to my body, to understand the signals it's giving me, to understand the feedback, and work in a constant communion and relationship with my body. That is such an absolutely important aspect. And on the same token, it's equally as important for me to not give into the signals too early, because it is in that stretch, it is in that point of discomfort that I'm actually creating the capacity to be able to do more in life. So the balance of, oh, hey, it's time to rest, it's time to dial back, we're reaching the point of overtraining to the point of injury, and hey, we're just feeling fatigued, we need to keep pushing forward. And this is the line that is not a straight line, it's not a clear line, it's blurry, it's disoriented, it's curvy, and I'm learning it. Every single day is a learning process for me in that. So I don't want you to think that it's just about not listening to the body, not honoring the body, and just pushing it all to the side and overpowering the thoughts, overpowering the signals from the body, because it's not merely about that. It's about developing an understanding and relationship so deep that you can receive the signals and then make a conscious decision whether you're going to push further into that discomfort and whether that's the healthy choice, or if it's time to dial back and take a different approach in that moment for the long term. And I don't have an answer exactly of how to make that determination. There's a lot of intuition, there's a lot of work, and there's a lot of time and practice that has gone into me continuing to understand that, and I'm still learning that for myself. So we got the nutrition. So we're at the nutrition about an hour and a half. My goal for the ride, so my bike in Atlantic City, again, the flat ride was 2 hours, 55 minutes. I think I was averaging about 19 and a half miles an hour. So for this race, I had the new bike, and I was really hoping to do like 21. I wanted to do this ride in like 2 hours, 45 minutes. And halfway through, I wasn't anywhere near that. And, in my mind, I'm like, well, maybe the back half. Because I looked at some of the bike times of the top in my field from last year, and I was like, let me get an idea. And some of their averages were about 20, 21 miles an hour. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe the back half, we went all this uphill, maybe the back half, there's a lot of downhill. We're going to make up some of it. And listen, there was some stretches of downhill where I think I clocked in the top at like 40 miles an hour. I was doing that for a little while. So I was cruising for a little bit, but coming up again to an uphill, and then even the end, like right up to the end, there was these steep climbs into these downhills. So it was it was painful from start to finish. And I mean, my hat's off to the people who did that course with that average mile an hour. It is, I think I learned a lot. And I think the biggest thing that came up for me intuitively throughout this race was my leg power. It wasn't my breathing that was holding me back. My aerobic capacity is very good right now. I've been doing a lot of training in the different zones, both high intensity and low intensity, to really work on my aerobic threshold, my ability to utilize oxygen. So that wasn't the limiting factor. It really felt like my strength was the limiting factor. When people would pass me, they were just able to push their pedals more efficiently. It felt like I was doing the same cadence, the same speed as them with my feet, but they were just being able to sustain bigger speeds or faster speeds. And I think it came down to strength. I have not been strength training. I've been doing 5 to 6 training sessions a week, the pool, the run, the bike, but I have not been spending time stretching, and I have not been spending time strength training. And I know that's created an impact and a weakness in my training plan. So one of the things that I'm definitely going to be implementing is at least 1 to 2 days of strength training for my legs and also my shoulders, which after the race, I couldn't even lift my one arm. I was so fatigued. I have prior injuries in both shoulders, and that was definitely making its way through. So I definitely have underestimated and undervalued the importance of strength training, especially for the bike. I've been putting the hours in, I've been doing the training, but strength is important. So that was definitely a lesson learned for me throughout the bike ride, and something that I will definitely be taking with me and integrating into my training plan moving forward. So that was the bike ride. I ended off with a time of, I think, about 3 hours and 10 minutes. So all in all, for as hilly as it was, doing about 10 to 15, what was it, 10, or 15 to 20 minutes slower than Atlantic City, that was super flat, I was super happy with it. In the moment, I will say the bit of my ego was like, shit, like this bike sucks, our time sucks, we're not going to PR today. But I was like, don't give into that, give all you can on the run. We can PR today, PR is personal record, and the time for that was 5 hours and 46 minutes that I did in Atlantic City last year. So I get done with the bike, my legs are tore up, I'm hurting, I'm tired, I get to transition, we make it, and it's time for the run. I put my shoes on and I know where I want to be. I was hoping to be under 8 minutes a mile. And so that was my goal coming out the gate, and the run course was much nicer. The beginning, getting out there was a little rough. It was like through the woods a little bit, and it was like this rocky road. It was like uphill a little. I'm like, are we dealing with this on the run too? Because I don't know how much more I got. But once we got on the rail trail that it was on in Kingston, it was a beautiful rail trail. It was an out and back twice. So it was about 3.5 miles down, back. There was 8 stations where they had bananas and chips and food and all the things you can need. Again, I have a belt that I wear with my hydration on it. And then at the 8 stations, I was feeling the potato chips. I was having some potato chips, some bananas, and continually fueling. Because the one thing you don't want is to stop that fueling process, because even if you feel good, you can't catch up with it. The same with hydration. If you feel that you're thirsty, you're already too late. So it's important to keep up with that. So I'm done with the swim, 40 minutes on the swim, done with the bike, 2 hours and 10, 2:15, something like that, about 17.5 miles an hour. So I wasn't super happy with it, but again, the hills were crazy and I gave every single ounce that I could on that ride. And now we're into the run. It was cool on the run. I got to see some of my friends. That one friend that came and supported me in the beginning, we got to do some high fives. And the neat part about the run was you saw a lot more people. It was down and back for all of the distances, and the turnaround was different for the different distances. And by then, the other distances of races had started, so there was people of all the distances on the run. So it wasn't like the bike where I was just like an hour without seeing a human. The run, there's people back and forth. You're supporting one another. You're saying, "Hey, keep going, looking great." And man, some of the most beautiful moments. There's something so funny and unique when you are running in a world of pain and you just like connect eyes with someone that's running the opposite way and they're just in a world of pain, and you just smile or you say something supportive. It's just such a unique thing that you are 5 hours into a race, you feel like your legs are gonna fall off, part of you wants to quit, part of you wants to keep going forward, and you connect in that moment. You totally understand one another, and it's just it's beautiful. It's not always like that. Like in the run, there's definitely moments where I'm tuned out. None of the other runners exist. I really go into this. I've heard some people refer to this as the pain cave. You're in a world of pain at that point. I don't care how much you've trained, how much you've done. You are hurting. You're fatigued. You're tired. Part of you wants to stop or slow down, and there's no avoiding that. You have to learn your style, your way to embrace that, to move through that. And I was giving it all I had. I didn't quite hit the 8-minute mile, but I started at about 8:15 a mile. So ultimately I wanted to come in at under 2 hours for the run. I really wanted to be around an hour 45. But I was coming in at like 8:15. I'm like, all right, this is a good pace. We could hold this. We're doing good. My breathing felt good. I did have a cramp all 13 miles, right in my side. I tried breathing it out. There were times where I just kind of accepted it and it went away for a little bit, but it came back. I definitely dealt with a cramp the whole ride. Again, my legs were burning from the ride, but I was finding a pace that allowed me to just keep on moving. And again, at that point, it's incredible. And one of the things that I love the most, that inspires me the most at these events is, again, I was passing people or we're going in both directions. There's people 70, 80 years old. There's people, of all different weight classes and genders, and to see people, regardless of where they're at, regardless of their weight, regardless of maybe physical disabilities, people with prosthetics, seeing them doing the same thing that you're doing is just, I just can't think of anything more inspiring. And there was this one moment that really struck a chord with me. I was at mile like 11. So I'm 15 minutes from finishing. I'm hurting. I'm giving it every single thing that I had. And, I'm coming up to a lady. She's running up from me. And, she's struggling. She's getting through, but she's struggling. She's got a smile on her face. And she's a heavy-set woman. She's out there giving it her all. And she looks over at me, she locks eyes, she looks at me, she goes, "You're amazing. You look incredible, you're amazing, keep going." And I was thinking the same thing about her. Because, I thought to a time when I was much more overweight than when I am. And I would have never in my wildest dreams had thought to do a 5K, let alone a triathlon. So when I see people of different weight classes tackling things like this and not allowing their current situation define what's possible for them. Again, weight was one thing, age, prosthetics, any of those things. For them to show up in a field of people, the amount of determination, the amount of grit, the amount of vulnerability that takes, it's just some of the most inspiring stuff. And for her to look at me and say that I'm amazing, I mean, I teared up, and hearing that made such an impact. And again, she was the one that I thought was amazing, showing up here despite all of it and racing her little heart out for whatever distance she did. And again, seeing what had to be a 70 plus lady out there trucking, probably doing 8 minutes a mile. Like it's absolutely amazing. And it just makes me want to keep doing these things. So the run, again, all in all, the run was good. My pace fell back. I started about 8:15. I kept hydrating, talking with some people. You get into little short conversations like, "Hey, you're doing great, brother. Keep it up. We're right there." And did my loops. Towards the end, I was really feeling it again. And I think I pulled back to about 8:40 a mile. And I'll never forget the last 3 miles, I knew I was close to my time from last year. And I am really competitive with myself. And again, I knew I was close to last year's time. I didn't know exactly what I needed, but I remember sitting, I was like, I was running, I was told my body, I was like, listen, everything we have right now, give me 8:20 a mile right now. I want to finish this run in this time. I forget what the time was, but I remember looking at my watch and I'm like, I need this time to reach the goal that I had. So I just out loud too, like I do this, sometimes it's in my mind, sometimes it's out loud, and I spoke to my body like, we got to give it everything. I was racing it like there was, like my life was on the line. And this is how I approach these. I am super competitive with myself. Like I could have easily ran that run at 10 minutes a mile, had a chiller day, and not had been as winded the day after, right? Even on the bike. Like I could have just taken all of the legs a little bit easier. But I don't know. I've learned how to be completely competitive with myself while also being completely satisfied with where I'm at, because at the end of the day, I judge myself on my output. I don't even want to say judge myself, but I look at my output, not on my outcome, right? So I don't judge myself whether I come in first or last, but I will judge myself based upon whether I left it all on the table or I left some in the reserve tank or I really didn't put out 100%, and I don't like to say the word judged, but that's how I reflect. That's how I look. Did we go and show up 100% as we could that day? And there ain't no one that could say I didn't give 100% that day. Again, a little bit of the ego in me was when I found out I came in 1 minute slower than last year, was a little defeated. But then again, I was not unhappy because that last course was completely different. If I was on that bike course from last year, who knows what the time difference would have been. It's a different course, it's a different day. And above all of that, and also the run was almost identical to Atlantic City. Almost identical. So after the bike that was challenging, legs being completely tore up, I was able to do a run that mimicked the run after that solid bike ride, the last one. So I have all these reasons that I need to continue to remind myself of how amazing we showed up that day. And I feel that and I honor that. But also there's that competitive in me that's like, damn, I still wanted a PR. Now, funny thing, after the race, now, when you do races and marathons, there's award ceremonies for top. Sometimes it's just typically the ones I've been a part of, it's the top 3 males, the top 3 females, and there's 3 awards, gold, silver, bronze. Sometimes they do age group. This one they did age group, and I didn't know they were doing age group awards. So I went up and they had like an iPad you could see where you clocked, and I saw I was second in my age group, but I did, oh cool, I was second, and it was at that time it was second out of 3. So I'm like, oh, second place out of 3. Like, I mean, it's cool to be second, but it was only out of 3 people, but I was 12th out of the 42 that were on. So I mean, I still a great placement to be able to place and show up out of all of the men and place in 12th. Like, that's great. That's awesome. Now, the day after, my friend messaged me and she goes, hey, you got second place. You should claim your medal. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's for your age group. You get a medal. So I'm like, and because I mentioned one of my biggest goals this year was I wanted to medal a race. I wanted to be on that podium. I wanted to earn that spot, and I did it and didn't even know it. So needless to say, today I reached out. They're going to be mailing me my medal. I'm actually going to be first in my division. I'm getting the gold medal because the person who came in first won first overall. So that bumped me up from second to first place, and I'm actually taking home the gold medal for my age group. Yeah, I don't have much to say. It's amazing. There's still parts of me that's like, damn, I wanted to be on the podium. Again, my ego is like, shit, I wanted the podium moment. But I think that's a little bit of like the me that wants to be seen and heard and honored, and it's okay. It's okay to want that. I'm gonna get that again one day. But it is nice to have achieved that. But again, I do not derive my satisfaction off of the outcome. It's off of the effort, and this is something I've really learned a lot from, especially from the Huberman Lab podcast. And when they talk about, specifically talk about, kids and how to congratulate and to honor effort over outcome, because we can't control outcome, but we can control effort. I can't control who shows up to that race day. I can't control the times of the other people, but I can control every single time the effort I put in leading up to race day and on race day. So if I can know in my heart that my effort was a 10 out of 10, it doesn't matter what that outcome is. It never matters. So this is how I've learned to honor my process, to take a look and see how I'm showing up. Outcomes matter. I'm not gonna say they don't matter. Like I said, I want to place. I want medals. I want to be on podiums. Heck yeah, that feels good. But I always remember it's me versus me. And if I give 100%, that's all I can ask for myself. And I did it. And it took a lot. Like I said, in that run, I was like, we don't really need to do this. We don't have to. But I made it in my heart, I have to. I'm here, I'm doing this, I have to leave it all out there. And I asked my body to give that to me. And I didn't get exactly what I asked for, but my body gave everything it could. And that's all I could ask for of it. And I'm proud of it. And this is the relationship I have. This race is 6 hours of a constant talk and communication, especially with no headphones. With the parts of me, the thoughts, the doubts, the insecurities, the confidence, all of it comes out. And that's what I love about testing these new waters. And, with that being said, this race is over now. I have some lessons moving forward, Now I've hit the point of no man's land. Now I'm going to do double this distance I've never done before. And I'll be honest, in this race, some doubts came up. They're like, how in the hell are you going to do double this distance? You can't do that. This is crazy. That came up as early as the swim. And, I nipped them down real quick, but that's very real. This race was a very real reminder that you're about to do double this. All of this world of pain you're in, you have to put up with for double the time and more than, because you're not going to sustain the pace of 6 hours over the course of, that double that race size. So the paces are going to be a little bit slower. So it's going to be about a 12 to 13 hour race. And again, those doubts came up, but also excitement. I've officially, that I walked out of that race and entered into an area I've never been. Last year I did a 70.3. I'm like, this is now possible. I have learned for myself, I can do this if I wanted to. And then this year I trained and got to the thing that the known possible. Now I'm in the area of unknown possible. I know it's possible, but I don't know it's possible. I don't know what it takes for that to be possible. I know what it took to be possible to get to this point. So that's the biggest part of this process for me right now. Looking back, what did it take for me to get to where I am right now? What did it take? What habits, routines, rituals, nutrition, and training did it take to accomplish what I've accomplished to this point? And then what changes or things need to stay the same to accomplish double that moving forward into the Ironman in September 29th in Chattanooga? This is where I am. This is the tipping point that I'm at. And this is the area of growth. This is where impossible becomes possible. This is the area of excitement in life. Whether it's a physical endeavor, whether you're doing a marathon, your next race, whether this is a public speaking thing, something for your career, a creative thing, whatever it is, this is the area of growth. This is the area of understanding what's capable for you. This is turning the impossible into possible, or at least the unknown into possible. So these next few weeks are going to be all about that. Continuing to refine my processes, my nutrition, and my training, amping these things up in very strategic ways so that, again, I'm honoring my body, I'm honoring my fatigue, allowing my body to recover, but also ramping things up in volume and intensity so I reach that race day in peak physical condition with a minimum chance of injury and being able to finish that race and not a DNF, did not finish. So I'm excited. I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm proud. Ready. I'm not ready. I'm feeling all of the emotions. And I think it's a great indicator of being on the right track. The brain is going to push back in areas of discomfort. And if this has taught me nothing else, it's that it's okay and that the brain doesn't have to win. We can have the final say, especially when we have a vision so big. I love the quote that have a vision so big or have goals so big it scares people with a small mind, and I just feel that with each plateau or each mountaintop I reach, there's another one, and I think there's a common misconception that the continual pursuit of more and more and more, and I'm not talking about money and things, but I'm talking about character traits, personality, physical fitness, mental fitness, that continual evolution, that continual growth, that doesn't come or doesn't have to come from lack of fulfillment. Because what I've learned is my fulfillment comes from the evolution. My fulfillment comes from reaching the top of the mountain and saying, great, where's the next mountain? Not because I'm not enough, because I really want to continue to understand what's possible for me. And that is the prize. That is falling in love and being completely enveloped with the process. A lot of people can see it and think it comes from a place of lack. And in some cases, it can. But there's also cases, and I know from my own experience, that my fulfillment comes from the process of growth. My fulfillment comes from looking at something that seems impossible and then going and making it possible, going and doing it, despite the feelings, despite the doubts, despite the uncertainties, despite the people who think I'm crazy, going and doing it and proving that an average Joe, literally, can do this. And that's really what I want to get across in my content, in this podcast, and all that I share. Like, I am not special. I put in a lot of work. I have dedicated a lifestyle to this. I have found joy in this. I have created an identity around this. But I wasn't born the sports star. I didn't excel in sports in high school. I was overweight most of my life. I struggled with horrible eating habits and eating disorders. I was depressed and, dealt with depression and suicidal ideation. There was all of these things stacked against me. So this wasn't genetics. This wasn't a lucky hand. This is something that I decided to create with my life. And this is something, and again, the physical things aren't for everyone, or the marathons, triathlons. It's not about that. It's about finding the things that scare you or that excite you or that allow you to continue to evolve as a human being. Again, it's that physical fitness, marathons, triathlons. It could be creativity, playing guitar, making music, DJing, fire spinning, like public speaking, whatever those things are that allow you to evolve as a soul and continue to grow and expand and do things you thought were impossible and make an impact in the world while doing it. That's all it's about. So don't judge it on other people's experiences. If running sounds like the worst thing in the world to you, you probably shouldn't sign up for a marathon. I mean, could it be beneficial to lean into discomfort? Yeah, but you don't have to. And that's not the point of this. The point isn't for me to share this so other people follow my journey. It's about giving them the power to follow theirs. And that's all I ever want to do. Don't follow other people's journeys because you think it's the thing to do. Follow the journey that excites you most. Follow the things that allow you to expand as a human being, that feel good for you, but also challenge you. Challenge you to be better. Challenge you to show up differently. Challenge you to grow in ways that other things just don't allow you to do. This is the path. The challenge is the way. The struggle is the thing that's going to make you stronger. And I'll finish with this, If God wanted to make a strong human, what would he give him? Would he give him easy situations? Would he give him a life of luxury and no challenge? Or would he give him a bunch of things that would allow him or her to grow and be challenged and to callous their minds and to callous their bodies? This is the way that our growth works. This is the way that we are hardened. This is the way that we are cultivated in life. It is not through the easy times. It is through the challenging times. When we can reframe our relationship to the challenge, when we can embody and we can move through the challenge with different perspectives, that's when we begin to shift in ways that completely alter the trajectory of our lives. So this was my post-race recap. Hudson Valley Alpha Win 70.3 Triathlon in Kingston, New York, 2024. I hope you got some good nuggets of wisdom from this, and I'm excited to share more on my journey leading to Ironman Chattanooga, September 29th, 2024. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll definitely be coming with some more episodes. So keep tuning in, subscribe, and we'll talk to you all soon.